At home we like the Argo mine. This is quite a bit bigger than that. Look at it. One big truck. That's one big tire. Holy cow. You may take a picture of it?
So the rules are, just keep your hard hats on at all times on the ground. Keep your hands and feet inside the train when it's moving. And they're meeting with you. And so, so the train's going to jolt a little bit when it starts. I'll warn you by ringing the bell. Box of dynamite for 24 hours. And the magazine would be built out of wood with non-sparking nails because they didn't want any sparks created. During the entire 70 years that the Britannia mines were in operation, the tunnels were pitch black. And the only electric light was inside the magazines. And they had an electric light in there for two reasons. The first reason was that they were using candlelight for the first 20 years here. So it would be foolish for the miner to look for a box of dynamite with an open flame. The other reason is that this light's generating heat, and when this door was shut, it was enough heat to keep the dynamite sticks dry. Because if dynamite sticks get damp, the nitroglycerin inside gets highly unstable, and then it can explode without. But now that I have your attention, I'll take everyone to the drilling chamber, and I'm going to demonstrate some old mining equipment and how they would be drilling their holes where they would be loading up their dynamite. Down was the wood drill, and they started using it in 1904 when the mine opened. But this drill, unfortunately, had a few things wrong with it. It was very harmful to the miner. I'll tell you why it was so harmful after I demonstrate it for you. So you can plug your ears. 1, 2, 3. So this is the Stoper drill. They started using it in the 1920s to drill their vertical holes. And this over here is the jackleg drill. They started using it in the 1930s to drill their horizontal holes. And both the Stoper and the jackleg are still used today. All right, so plug your ears. 1, as shown by this yellow mark on the wall. Inside the miner's bullseye, they're drilling about 30 holes, taking about 2 minutes to drill each hole, in a pattern consisting of an inner circle of holes, outer circle of holes, a row across the top, and a row across the bottom. And most of that is loaded up with dynamite, and then it's detonated in that order. And after you blast, you get a pile of rubble in the front called the muck. And for the first 20 years here, they were shoveling the muck out by hand. And in the next chamber, I'm going to talk about mucking. So, follow me. Alright, so this pile of rock represents after you blast your miner's bullseye. Do you remember what it was called? Muck. Okay, the men working with the muck were called muckers. And muckers worked in crews of 2 using just this tool. What do you think they called this? It's not very imaginative. Muck stick or muck shovel. So the mucker's job was simply to shovel the muck, throw it over their shoulders into ore carts. So just like this, all day long. Obviously with an ore cart right here. So in the 1920s, they came out with a machine to make their lives a bit easier. It's cleverly named the mucking machine. And it can move 16 tons of rock in just 1 hour. And it also runs on compressed air, just like everything else.
What? This is cool.
One, two. the most important piece of equipment in the mine.
Is that how you get in and out? You ride it?
No, it's a good idea.
That's the
Two people.
stupidest guess ever.
No, it's good.
Yeah,
It's
two
good.
guys on
There's
there.
handles.
Why do you think we were on a train?
Well, you gotta go into the thing.
Dynamite, good idea. You think it's a toilet?
Is this where they put the canary or?
You're right though. Yeah, it's your honey wagon.
Supported
So your honey wagon is your two-man toilet. It's the Cadillac of toilets. So this was your first job here at Britannia. They made the new guy push around the honey wagon for 30 days. I'm going to turn off the lights and show you all three forms of lighting used underground. So you can turn my way for the full effect. And there you go. Okay, so for the first 20 years here, they were using candlelight. And every miner carried one. And he would find where he was going to work for the day, spike it in the wall. He'd have a little bit more light than this, but he would have a very limited amount of light to work by. Okay, so the second form of lighting used underground was the carbide light. And they started using this in the 1920s. And in the bottom chamber is a man-made substance called calcium carbide. And when it reacts with water, it forms acetylene gas that comes out this nozzle inside. So they would just attach that to their hard hats, and they would have hands-free light to work by. So the last form of lighting used underground was the battery-powered headlamp. And they started using headlamps in 1937. So a battery charge for a headlamp would last 12 hours, but the first battery packs were at least 16 pounds and worn with straps as a backpack on the mine.
A bigger one, right?
The whistle would be blown when the miners started their shift, when they ate their lunch, and when they were off their shift. And the whistle was blown 3 times if a major emergency occurred inside the mine. And that would alarm a lot of people living in both the beach and Mount Shear, because they were both company towns, so everyone that lived here would have a loved one inside. I'm just going to blow it once to let them know that we're all safely out. Like I said, it's very loud. Plug your ears. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Pretty loud, right? Alright, so you can follow me down the hill. Inside, we're brought up with diamond tip drills, some of which are just beside me here. These drills drill straight in from the surface of the earth. They come up extracting a long core sample, and they break that up and analyze it or assay it, so then they know the depth of the ore, the content of the ore, and they know where they're drilling before they start. So these 2 core sheds alone hold 175 kilometers worth of core samples, and they're from the 1960s. Just walk through. Connects to one of the main tunnels in the mine, and that's where the ore carts will come up in, dump off the ore in the top of the building, and then it just falls through levels of crushers and grinders. Let's go in and I'll explain how the mill works. Try to ignore the prop.
Gravity-fed mill.
Alright, so if you worked in the mill, you have to climb up and down these steps several times during your shift. To the top of the building, there's 375 steps, and from here we can see about 238 of those. So the entire mill is the equivalent to a 26-story building. So the miners are going up and down the steps without any railings. The railings were only put in when the museum opened in 75. So this here would be the skip, and that would be winched up with an electric winch, and that hauls the heavy equipment up and down the building. But if a miner was caught riding the skip, trying to get an easy ride to work, he would be fired on the spot. And it will just fall through the levels of crushers and grinders, and it gets smaller and smaller with each level until it's finally crushed down to a sand size. And the sand size rock would be called the fines because it's finely ground. And from there you're using a process called froth flotation, and you're basically adding some chemicals and some water, and you're floating up the copper.
Yep. Oh, the gold pen is over here. Perfect.